Hello there, Star Wars fans. Our September Hyperspace Happy Hour is upon us, and this month, the Flying Casual Book Club picked up the 2016 novel by E.K. Johnston, Ahsoka. Now, if you're anything like us, you're probably in a post-Clone Wars hangover. And that's okay. Just pick up a copy of this quick read and join us on some adventures with our favorite heroine. Want to help decide next month's book for the book club? Go ahead and join our Facebook group and become part of the Flying Casual fam. Now enough of that. Let's get to the happy hour. Hello there, Star Wars fans. Welcome back to another episode of Flying Casual. We are here with our latest installment of our formal book club, Holly's Hyperspace Happy Hour. I am joined by the lovely Holly. This is your book club, Holly. It's 2020. The book club is still going strong, surprisingly, given the circumstances.
It's been good, guys. We've had it every single month.
Well, there was a period of time where we were on a hiatus.
That was a special time with a special book.
That's right.
But we're back on schedule. We're doing this the second Saturday of every month, usually around 9 p.m. Eastern, give or take 18 minutes.
That's right. Yeah, we're a little late tonight, but you're probably listening at work, at home, on the John, wherever you're listening. We appreciate it. Holly, 2020 is crazy. It's not going to hold us back. Whether it's, a pandemic or, Taco Bell taking cheesy Fiesta potatoes off of the menu. Yes, Holly did sign the petition on chains.org.
All five of them.
To bring those back. A lot of things happening in our universe. And that's why, folks, sometimes we like to escape to that universe and that galaxy far, far away. That happened a long time ago, surprisingly, Holly. But this month, Holly, we're talking about a little book called Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I read this book many a year ago when it first came out. And after you summarized the book, Holly, since, for me, since I haven't read it in a long time, I realized didn't finish the book. Very surprised by that ending. Not so much because it highly related to the Clone Wars, but was very surprised that I didn't finish that book. But Holly, we read Ahsoka. Well, you guys read Ahsoka. We are joined here with our lovely panelists of our book club. We've got Brent, we got Andy, we got Paige, we got Luke, we got Jory, we got Nate, and Rob's showing up late at some point, dropping in a Kylo Ren mask. So we've got a big panel, a lot of thoughts on this one. But Holly, I do want to start with you. It's your happy hour. It's your book club. It was your choice of Ahsoka. What brought you to the book? Well,
it actually was a little thing called a Facebook poll.
Let's go.
In the group.
It's nice that you give people the opportunity to have a voice. It's a nice, a democracy here.
This is a democracy. I feel like that is just something that we have to support, especially as Star Wars fans.
But you know what? You could put a poll right now in the Facebook group, and you could literally just ask people to give them, two options, yes or no. Would you like this podcast to go full Sith and become, an authoritarian regime? I think everyone would answer yes.
I think one person would answer yes, and I think that he's on this panel right now, and that is Brent himself.
It's possible, but I don't know. Nettie's rocking the Sith Flying Casual shirt right now, a Sith shirt created by yours truly, Michael Canterbury. But a Sith shirt, I'm interested to see, Holly. We've got trivia trials coming up next week with Nate. I don't know what to expect. He may come full Sith. We're going to see. He's teasing us right now on the dark side. But so we Holly, you picked this one. First thoughts. What'd you think?
Yeah, I'll tell you guys what I think. I won't ask Michael what he thinks.
Don't.
Because he didn't do his homework.
I'm here for comedy. That's it.
Yeah, you're here.
Wow, slam.
Personally, I like the book a lot.
Okay.
And we'll get everybody else's thoughts too. I think we don't really read too many young adult books in the book club. This is probably our second one because I think Leia was also a young adult book. So the writing style was a little bit different compared to Dark Disciple, which was last month's book, but they're both books based on Clone Wars, so we just continued with that Clone Wars theme here. Personally, for me, Ahsoka is one of my favorite characters. I don't know if everyone agrees that we would categorize her as a Jedi or a non-Jedi. I think that is something that's debated.
Big debate.
So she is one of my favorite Jedi and one of my favorite non-Jedi. So I always love to hear more about Ahsoka. I think that what happened in the book, and we can get to this as we get into our conversation, I think that it stood true to her character. I think she acted exactly how I would expect Ahsoka to act. I think she had her little funny moments. I think that she was fierce and badass. but still had a lot of that Ahsoka heart.
Checked all the boxes. Now, we did look at a few reviews. I'm not sure, Holly, where you were pulling those reviews from. Not such a loved book in the Star Wars community, but Holly, a lot of people were saying, it was just too much Ahsoka, and I felt that was a little problematic because the damn book's called Ahsoka. Am I wrong?
No, I'm on Goodreads, so I looked this book up on Goodreads.
Let's go.
Before.
Is that a credible source? I'm not
Yes.
sure. Okay.
I looked this book up on Goodreads before this podcast because I kind of wanted to see what everybody else was talking about before coming into this. Now, I think that people's sentiments changed a little bit now based on season 7 of the Clone Wars, since this book did come out in 2016. So that was long before we got this latest season of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any new reviews. There were some that were from about a year ago, but I don't know how long ago those were. But a big complaint that I saw from people is that they were saying this is just too much Ahsoka.
Too much Ahsoka.
I don't know how that's possible because the book is literally titled Ahsoka.
I thought this was going to be about Obi-Wan's, hiatus on Tatooine.
Well, we do learn a little bit about that, though.
Actually, we do. Really awesome part of it.
And then, so that didn't make a lot of sense to me. And then the other review that I saw that we will talk about in this book club today as well is that there were a lot of people that were upset because they said that it had too many LGBTQ undertones.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate that type of review. But we can get to that. But I think I didn't really agree with.
Yeah. You did not write the review. That's what you're saying.
So that's what we're here to do.
Okay. So you liked the book overall. It may be a little teen fiction, but we dabble in it every once in a while, just like the dark side. So you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You'd read it again.
Yeah. I actually said that to Paige earlier. I was like, I think that I need to read this again because I flew through it.
Yeah.
Gave myself 2 days to read it, people. Come on.
Yeah, that's insane. I asked Holly if she could take a little bit of her brain and put it in mine, and she said, no, you're going to be the dummy of the podcast. So let's go around the horn. Let's get a general thoughts on the book. Let's start with our dark side in-house user. Brent, what'd you think, my good friend?
I really enjoyed the book. It's been a little while since I've listened to it, and I only listened to it once on the audio recording. But I really enjoyed it going through. There are some parts that I think stand up. There might be a slight continuity issue now that season 7's come out with the beginning relating to Ahsoka's lightsabers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it gave us lightsaber lore, which up until that point, all we had was that the Sith sabers were made from synthetic kyber crystals, and that was how they were read. Now we know that's untrue. There's something like officially in canon, and for that, this book is awesome and well worth the read on that fact alone.
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm always down for some good kyber crystal talk and good laser sword penetration, Holly.
I actually have that written in big capital letters on my notes with a bunch of underlines. It says lightsaber.
Yeah.
Exclamation
And that's
point.
it. That's the only note she made. So
that's
I guess
actually true.
We're going to talk a lot about lightsabers. Dugan, if you're out west, so our communications may be a little delayed. There's wildfires everywhere, so I hope you're safe, first of all. But you picked up Ahsoka. I know you're a fan of her. What did you think, buddy?
Yeah. Well, just like Holly, I was kind of pissed with all the LGBTQ overtones, trying to get that in here. No, actually, so I really liked the book. I actually read it, I remember when Holly, first announced Hyperspace Happy Hour and, a few of the books. And then I read those ones, and so I had a little bit extra time. And so I grabbed this one. So I read it a couple months ago.
Nice.
And I think I read this right between the time I finished before the new Clone Wars came out. So I finished Clone Wars, I was watching Rebels, and so I was just wondering about what was Ahsoka doing in between?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was honestly, I didn't even think it was too young adult. A couple parts maybe, but honestly, I thought it was fun, and it sounds like a lot of people flew through it. And I think I did the same. I think I read it in probably just several days. So yeah, it was a nice read.
Absolutely. Lots of, some hot and heavy action, Holly. Maybe not. I don't recall what the book was about, but lots of laser swords I'm hearing.
Yeah, actually, not really.
Oh, why do the notes just say laser swords?
It doesn't. It says lightsaber.
Okay. Well, we come from a different generation, Holly. I'm sorry.
I will say this. there was a lot of violence and there was a lot
Yes.
of gore in it. So I
Yeah.
do think that if you're rating something young adult based on that, maybe this wasn't actually a young adult book.
Well, here's the thing, Holly. Kids nowadays are playing some of the most gory and violent things, that we've ever
Yeah.
witnessed. So I think a little laser sword action, some hearts ripping out, things exploding. I think kids are used to that. This was actually probably mild in comparison to
Somebody
some
does
of the
get
things.
cut in half.
They do, and it's not Darth Maul. That's a spoiler for Phantom Menace.
No.
Paige, I know you got some strong feelings about this one. So if you can highlight the high points right now for us, what did you think?
Well, I didn't fly through it, but that's not the book's fault. It was personal reasons. So I really liked it. I also love Ahsoka. I loved the gay content.
Let's go.
I'm happy Dugan's here, so I'm not by myself this time. I'm not the only queer person here. But it kind of hit too close to home with the whole her struggling on being alone and not knowing what she was doing and being out of control. I have control problems. So I related to her a lot. So it was hard for me. It wasn't triggering, but it made me disassociate a lot. So I had to take very long breaks from the book while reading it. But I really enjoyed it. It made her feel more not human, because she's not a human, but relatable.
Yeah.
It brought up a lot of different issues, diversity problems in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think I liked the lightsaber lore a lot.
Mm.
One of my best friends was actually reading it too while we were doing this, and she was like dying for me to read it because she was so excited for me to find out how she got her crystals. And I was very surprised personally about the crystal situation. I thought that was new and inventive. And I love E.K. Johnston too, because I love the Padme books. So I was really excited to read a YA novel. I love YA novels. I don't think this was too violent. I think this is on par with a YA novel. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
Holly, Paige brought up a good point. I didn't even think about that. How relatable it is to what we're going through right now, right? Challenging to be, you're so alone, you're so isolated at times, and confliction and all this stuff going on right now that we're all feeling. At least I know I am. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we've talked about this on a couple podcasts before, because I do think that this is a theme that comes up frequently in Star Wars. There is a lot of isolation, either intentionally or unintentionally. There's both there. I think that we've talked about this in terms of Obi-Wan.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Which actually, one of my favorite parts of this book was when, I guess we'll skip to the end real quick, spoilers, Bail Organa and Ahsoka were having a conversation, and Bail has this inner dialogue about Obi-Wan and how lonely it must be for him to be out in the desert. And I just think that you can imagine all of these Jedi out there all going through the same thing together but alone. And I think that everyone here can feel that too, because there's not a lot of gatherings, there's not a lot of get-togethers right now, there's not really a lot of interaction unless it's like we're doing right now on Skype, online, through text.
Well, let's hope that the Obi-Wan series comes out and the pandemic is miraculously gone. This virus hopefully is gone by then. We're all back to normal life, because it may be triggering, Holly. I may just grow a beard and throw a robe around myself and find some hut somewhere and hide some laser swords, for the chosen one to come save us all. It may come to that. It may be a little triggering, so I hope things get better soon. Our Sith Lord here is enticing me to go hide away and to meditate for years and years and years. Looking forward to that series about Kenobi. And Nettie, you're a fan of Ahsoka. You picked this one up. You may have read this one a while back as well, but what did you think, my friend?
I really enjoy it. I did. I read it for the first time probably about a year and a half ago, just for fun, slowly walking through canon material. And then when I found out we were doing it for the book club, I've listened to the audiobook like 3 times since then, just because I listen to podcasts and audiobooks at work, and I've been working some overtime, so I had a chance to get through it. And yeah, I think it's a really good book. Ahsoka's a character that, like, when she was introduced in like the Clone Wars movie, I was kind of like, what's the point of this character? But she's really grown on me as her character's developed throughout Clone Wars and Rebels in this book. I definitely like her a lot more now.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
That's
I'm
funny.
so on par with what we're talking
Michael
about.
and I had that conversation earlier. I said Ahsoka is a very unique character for us in Star Wars because not only is she a strong, independent female in Star Wars who isn't Princess Leia, she also is a character that we've known her from such a young age. So we get to kind of grow with Ahsoka throughout the Clone Wars movie, Clone Wars the series. We have this book and then we see her in Rebels. And I feel like that's pretty unique because who else do we really get to go that in depth with as they grow? Well, probably just Anakin.
The only thing we're missing is her being a real asshole, I'm sure, there in the Jedi Temple as a youngling. I'm thinking those days maybe we can just skim over and we really don't need to hear her be really annoying because she was very close to Anakin Skywalker, probably even, a little better than Anakin because we all know he's a whiny little baby when he's younger. But maybe we don't need that. But who knows? Who knows?
They did just release that golden book for Ahsoka as a Padawan.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Available on her universe.
Perfect. You just talked about that last night too,
I did just talk about that last night. I don't know if you guys had a lot of the golden books growing up.
Yeah.
I sure did. And I love how the Ahsoka one on the bindings, usually the golden books had the bindings and they have like little bunnies and little animals on them, but the Ahsoka one has little Darth Vader helmets and all kinds of little cute Star Wars ones, and I just think that's phenomenal.
Well, here's a little behind the scenes details that Holly didn't share with you about these book reading days of hers with the golden bindings back in the day. She actually used to eat those bindings.
I did not used to eat the bindings.
Little known fact. Well, now you know. You didn't know before, but now you do. So, Holly,
those winters are harsh in Maine. You gotta. You can.
Something to gnaw on and a nice, hardbound, golden bound book.
Girls gotta chew.
You were looking, for that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory ticket. That was a bad joke. I gave up on that one.
A golden ticket.
Mid-sentence. The golden ticket was the book. Holly, now, we're gonna ask Jory what he thought of this, and you know what? At some point, I feel like Jory's just gonna go off and say, "I freaking hated this thing." Maybe he was the guy who made the Goodreads review and said there was too much Ahsoka in it. I don't know. Jory, am I wrong?
No, you're right. I absolutely hated. No, it was a good book. It definitely. I had a little bit different experience than I think some of the others. I definitely did feel like it was more young adult. Novel, and I think it was just had to do with the writing and how it seemed. Oh, it was like perfect for me. It was like dumbed down. It was like very very simple. Not a lot of big words. I could spell it all out. We were good to go as far as that. But as far as the content in the book, I really enjoyed it, and I was able to listen to it a couple times. I was actually able to listen to it because I don't know if you guys know, but when you do the audiobooks on your phone, you can like double time it. And so I was able to listen to it in like 3.5 hours, which is pretty awesome.
Was like Ashley Eckstein, like was that how it went?
Yeah, very much so. It took a second, because I got the blower unit next to me and the mower, and like you had to kind of phrasing. You had to kind of like really make sure you paid attention, and but after a while it just was second nature. It was just she was talking really fast, but no, I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
That's awesome. Now we're gonna hear from our in-house Star Wars expert, the good Sir Luke Elder. Mr. Elder, you, like myself, read this many a year ago. Maybe you touched up on Wikipedia this evening. I'm not sure, but I recall you enjoying this book as well. But what'd you think?
I'm still processing Jory's double time thing. That was amazing. I don't know if I could handle it. Too much Star Wars, too fast. Yeah, I'm in the camp of a lot of people where I read it a little while ago. I'll take you down the long meandering road like I like to. I started reading the new canon books in 2017, and by that point, they started coming out in 2015. So the pace these things come out, they're coming out fast and furious. So I had this long list of like, okay, once I start into something, once I like really got back into Star Wars canon, I'm a bit of a completionist. So I'm like, I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
And I was kind of racing through them and looking for the bigger canon connections, bigger connections to like the saga films and things. And so when I first read this book, I was a little disappointed with the main story on the moon the farming moon, Rada.
Yeah.
Because it felt too small to me, and I was like, why do I care? I don't know what this is. What's going on?
Yeah.
The farmers, this Star Wars farmers. So I didn't put it very high up in my kind of rankings of all the books. I wouldn't have put it top 5, maybe not even top 10. But what I did remember really loving are those interludes that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got my hands on the book today. And just read all the interludes so I could at least catch up on that, and then kind of did some Wikipedia reviewing as well, that refresher. And then I love what E.K. Johnston did with the material that she had for those interludes. She writes quite beautifully. I just read the reason I didn't reread this whole book recently is because I just read Alphabet Squadron 2 Shadowfall and E.K. Johnston's Queen's Peril about Amidala. Because again, I'm trying to keep up with the canon that's come back, and those are the 2 most recent books. And I've grown to sort of love her writing more and more. This is now, I've read 3 of her books: Queen's Shadow, Queen's Peril, and Ahsoka, and she just gets Star Wars, and she's such a good steward of Star Wars. There's really powerful moments in those interludes. I like what she did with the stuff we see in season 7 on Mandalore. And she was writing that based off of old script notes, not having seen it. And I think she wrote it beautifully, even if some of the finer details contradict what we see in the end. The way she writes about the Kyber crystals, which is a huge part of the book, is really beautiful, about the crystals just laying in wait and growing until the right person comes along and speaking out to them. So I think what you have to do with a lot of these books that I did wrong early on when getting back into the canon novels is a lot of them are more character study and about what the character is going through and developing, rather than looking for the big plot connections, which I tended to focus on more. And I think it was a wonderful bridge between the Ahsoka we saw in the Clone Wars, who Paige talks about, once she leaves the Jedi and she's lost. She has no direction. She's wandering, aimless. To when we are reintroduced to her in Rebels, she's quite confident and assured of what she seems to be doing. Yeah. So there's definitely something to fill in there. And so I really like the way Paige, mentioned that, and I think it's a big aspect of just seeing Ahsoka find her purpose again. So I'll pause there, and we can catch up later.
Yeah, I think I felt the same way Luke did when I read it. The moon, Rada, and all that. It's cool. It is what it is. But then when you think about what she's gone through and what Obi-Wan's gone through, and it's that's pretty realistic, right? You can keep your head down. You're probably not going to get into too much shit. That's just what it's going to be, and it may not be that interesting. Yeah. And we may see that, similar story with Obi-Wan. But
also I think the importance of us being on Rada for most of the time is that, I think that a lot of times everybody wants these bigger stories and they want to see more of the galaxy, but for realistically, and we're talking about fiction. Yeah. So I use that term lightly. Yeah. But in terms of what the Empire is doing to the galaxy, for these people on Rada, they don't care if the galaxy is having this happen all over the place. What they care about is that it's happening to them in this moment on their planet. Their livelihood is being or the Empire is coming in and taking over, taking their livelihood, using up their resources, and then they're just going to leave. And I think that it's important to know, this battle needs to be fought for everybody, even these small communities on these moons like Rada, because it affects everybody everywhere.
Yeah, it's not going to all be about a regime change in Coruscant. Yeah. There's going to be other civilizations out there, and we should, we're going to learn about their stories too. Now, when I was thinking about with her relationship with these kids, I couldn't recall their names. I just know she had a relationship on the moon with these people. The Farty sisters. It reminded me of the other sisters from the Clone Wars, right? And I'm very similar stories, right, Holly? We had mentioned that.
There's actually 2 sets of sisters in this book.
That's right, the first and then the second.
So the Farty sisters are the first ones, but then she meets Kaden and Miardi.
Yeah, nailed it.
Am I nailing that?
I think you nailed it, yeah. So lots of relationships with lots of sisters. But so who was the sisters before that we?
Those are the first sisters with the younger girl.
Oh, I'm talking about Clone Wars. Sorry,
Oh.
I don't recall their names.
That's Trace and Raphael. Just watched those episodes.
Yes. So I when I was recalling the story, I was like, wow, very simple. Like, was Filoni kind of using some stuff? You know, he had ideas for for E.K. Johnston, also using it here in the Clone Wars. But then I'm realizing like Ahsoka or Ashla just has a lot of trust issues right now, right? Like she left the Jedi Order. She's got a lot of trust issues. She's like, I don't know if I trust these sisters in the Clone Wars. Eventually learns, to trust them and kind of reveal herself. And then Order 66 happens. Like, it's just like she's gone through so many ups and downs, similar to Maul, who I'm sure has trust issues too. We're not really sure with him. But I found myself annoyed at first being like, there's such similar stories, but then realizing like, but all of these ebbs and flows that she's gone through, Holly, am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Absolutely. Nailed it. That's my entire contribution. You guys have a good night. And I'll
Thanks
see you later.
Thanks for joining
well, Holly,
our Hyperspace Happy Hour.
You had some big points that you wanted to hit on. That's my contribution. So what's the next big point?
Well, I think that something that we all brought up was the lightsaber lore, and that was one of my favorite parts. So I know Brent, Paige, and Luke have all talked about it. I love when Luke brought up those kind of in between stories that E.K. Johnston put in here, because I actually read Michael the whole kyber crystal segment
in double speed too, so I was trying to keep up with her. She's like, we got a podcast at 9:00, like we got to do this.
I channeled my inner Ashley X.
That's right.
But I just thought that was so beautifully written. It actually gave me chills. That was my favorite thing ever, because I love how it personified these crystals and talked about the planet. And I don't know if anybody else has played Fallen Order or gotten to Ilum.
Never heard of it.
But there's a game. It's called Fallen Order, and you
follow
a Jedi.
Fallen Order or Law and Order? I'm a little confused.
Both.
Okay.
The Law and Order in Fallen Order.
Okay.
Anyway, and I just feel like even though that this game was created 4 years after this book was written, but everything just aligns so nicely and beautifully, and you can see the Empire start to come in and drill in these planets, and it just like made me overwhelmingly sad, because I felt like it was very similar to what's happening here.
Yeah, we had literally just discussed an NPR article about plastics and how they're not being recycled, Holly, and how they haven't been recycled for 30 plus years. And then you summarize this book for me. It's all too triggering, to be honest.
But we digress.
Yes.
So I just felt the connection that the crystals have and how they're described with having patience, and then how Ahsoka throughout the novel is described with learning how to be patient. I just thought all of that went together really well. But I want to go back to Brent, because Brent brought this up first in the beginning when we were going around saying what we liked. And Brent, you brought up the lightsaber lore to start us right off. So I kind of wanted to come back to you and see like what specifically about that you love so much.
Like I was saying earlier, just previous to that in the expanded universe, the thought that the Sith lightsaber was red because they had synthetic kyber crystals. It wasn't a real kyber crystal. So to completely change, I mean, granted that was never complete canon because it was expanded universe even back then, but that was all we had. We had nothing else, so that was all we had to go with. So to come in and lay down not only something that's canon, but something that's completely different than what we always had was, I mean, that was just awesome. And then you sit there and you think about, okay, at that point in time, what all these other Jedi had to do to then make their kyber crystals work for them. And then you think about Luke in Return of the Jedi, where he just lost his previous, he lost his dad's lightsaber. And then, so not only did he have to then like make his own kyber crystal connection, which nobody was there to teach him unless he was talking to Obi-Wan potentially in the interlude. But then where did he also get that kyber crystal from?
Yeah.
Because I mean, at that point in time, you don't know of other, that many other lightsabers around, let alone, there's, just happened. I mean, I guess Luke was laying around, so maybe it's a dime a dozen here and there, but where did he find it to begin with? And then, the connection and how did he learn it all? And, and you start thinking about that sort of stuff and how it relates back to all that. It's just awesome. And it's like, it's rare that you get something so significant in the lore that's presented new to something like Star Wars, that it's just awesome.
And they picked up on that in the Darth Vader 2017 line too. And you see Vader, who's just lost his lightsaber to Obi-Wan, and the Emperor's like, well, here's your first test. Go find you a kyber crystal and make a new lightsaber. He's like, oh shit, okay, well, and he couldn't just use crystals lying around that the Empire had picked up. He's got to go find his own, and he ends up finding an old Jedi master, and he defeats him and bleeds it. We learn about bleeding kyber crystals, and then it's like, okay, it's been bled. Now, how did Ahsoka get these white lightsabers? I think we were all just like, what did she do? I don't even recall exactly what she said she did, Holly, but maybe you do.
Yeah, so she actually said, I restored them, I freed them. The red crystals were corrupted by the dark side when those who wielded them bent them to their will. They call it making the crystal bleed. That's why the blade is red.
And that was an intense scene in the Darth Vader comic of Vader just all out, just darkness on this thing, almost like crushing it. It was insane. But so it's cool that they started the story here and we're now continuing it on in new canon. And you're right, it's far different from a generic kind of not even real kyber crystal that they had kind of come up with. So yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, Paige, I know you brought this up too, so I wanted to get your thoughts and see what it was that you liked about it.
So I have two different things. The first goes off the same thing Brent was talking about. We always thought that they were fake crystals. Well, I want to know what Kylo Ren did to crack his crystal, since I always thought it was a fake crystal, which it makes sense that it cracked because he's an idiot, and of course he would crack it somehow because he wouldn't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of revelations about that. Holly and I have talked about it. I just want to know what he did to crack an actual kyber crystal. I think that's fascinating that it's not a fake crystal. And then I also love Inquisitor lightsabers. That's my big thing. It's like I've been playing Fallen Order, so I'm very into all of it. My favorite passages about the lightsabers, though, was the whole thing when Ahsoka was leaving her lightsabers at the grave of Rex, and her talking about how important those lightsabers were because Anakin gave them to her. And I've rewatched the last 2 episodes of the Clone Wars more times than I can count. And there's a video that I found that put the audiobook audio over that video of Ahsoka at the graves. Nice. And it is just like so upsetting. It is so upsetting. And just thinking about how hard that was for her to leave those and completely just shed her entire self and walk away, and then eventually leave the person who essentially is her only friend and go be by herself, it's just that's the only thing she had tying herself together was these lightsabers, and then she has to leave them. Like, it's just very upsetting to me. So I think her being able to take 2 Sith crystals and then making them pure again is very, very symbolic. And she doesn't even really understand how important that is until probably Rebels. Yeah.
So Holly, that moment with the gravesite, right? Very similar to Clone Wars. I remember after Clone Wars ended, people were debating, like, did she bury them there to try to tell everyone that, this Jedi that was here is dead? Or was this, her trying to tell Anakin that I'm still out there? Like, I think this definitively pretty much tells us she was trying to deceive people into thinking she was dead.
Yeah, that's what it was in the novel. It was supposed to be that Rex killed her and then he got after, so then they buried him with the lightsabers as like a trophy. Yeah,
and
it was a lot.
all of it is, if you want to call it heartbreaking, then I think that that's probably appropriate, because throughout this novel she talks about her relationship with the clones, and I think one of the more emotional passages in this book is when she talks about they treated her like family, like she was there for them and they were there for her, and no matter how many times she made a bad call and got their brothers killed, like they would always come back and follow her into battle and do what she needed them to do. And she said, part of that was in their blood, but not all of it was. It was just because they're genuinely good people.
Yeah. And it's cool that, like, while there's some differences between the novel and the end of Clone Wars, it's nice though, like when she shows up and all the clones have, are representing her, and hey, we still stand by you. They complement each other,
Yeah.
right? You're getting more of that emotion in this book, but then you just double down on it in the Clone Wars with that visual and the sentiment obviously in there. I kind of want to ask all you guys, since we're kind of in that realm of discussing, the similarities of the Clone Wars and this book. I think a lot of us probably maybe feel a little, I don't know, maybe feel a little more passionately about the Clone Wars. It just kind of happened, right? And it was really epic. So I'm sure most of us are like, I kind of prefer that storyline. But is there anything in particular that maybe that you prefer from the Clone Wars more so than the novel? Or is there something actually in the novel that really worked more so for you than we saw in the Clone Wars?
A big question, Michael.
Hey, that's what I do. I ask the big important questions.
I think the emotional beats of both are really the same. So to me, like I said, the finer details of the differences are hardly important at all, because both are talking like you've said, a couple people have said, that the clones became family to her.
Yeah.
For someone who is not supposed to make too many personal attachments according to the old, the Republic era Jedi Order, she definitely made deep connections with the clones, and it's so beautiful in season 7 when you see, like you were talking about, the clones who have taken on her image in their helmet.
Yeah.
And after kind of reading through the interludes of this book, I went today and pulled up a lot of the scenes from those last couple episodes, including that very last scene with the graves after the Star Destroyers crashed. And it's haunting to see, like, a piece of her has died, and it's represented by those helmets with her image basically on it, buried there, in which I think E.K. Johnston captures as well in her writings about the loss that she feels in those moments. So that's why I have huge respect for E.K. Johnston, and I think she really gets the Ahsoka character. This is a character created and nurtured by George Lucas and Dave Filoni wonderfully, and then she was able to pick up and run with it, and I think stay true to it.
Yeah, I think something that I liked, I had the physical copy of the book, and that's what I was reading. And at the end, she has, as most authors do, acknowledgments, which, by the way, were very funny. She's very funny, E.K. Johnston. I love her humor, which is probably one of the reasons why she was able to write Ahsoka so well, is because I feel like she kind of has that same, like, quick wit. But she actually has an acknowledgement that she wrote for Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
Because she actually was able to work with him in developing her version of Ahsoka in the novel.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so great when you have these writers for Lucasfilm and then you have these novelists, and they're able to come together to give you, as a reader, the best version of these characters that they can. And I think that that's something that's pretty unique for these Star Wars books, especially because Michael and I were talking, this wasn't one of the Del Rey books.
Yeah.
This was a different publisher, and she was still able to work with Filoni and get those characters right.
For a while, I was questioning years ago if it were canon or not. I was like, this is a different public. Like, I'm not sure. Like, it just, even the cover looks different than the typical Star Wars book. So I was like, is it canon? And it's crazy now to go back, and I'm really sad that I didn't finish the book because I don't recall any of it. But, like, how much information in 2016 we got about the end of the Clone Wars, and how, small details have changed, but, like, back then, Dave Filoni had it all in his mind how this was going to play out. And yeah, the blue lightsabers are different than the green ones, but, like, the story was there, Yes, it was different how Maul was captured, but, like, the story was there. Being that epic, and I don't think, one thing for me that the Clone Wars really did well was emphasizing Anakin. I don't recall in the book if they mentioned really much about Anakin and how he was the one that's being groomed by Sidious. They didn't touch on that in the book, did they?
Yeah, it wasn't a thing.
That's the stuff that I really liked more so in the Clone Wars. But the fact that we were getting this story 4 years ago, is crazy. So thank God that they got to finish the Clone Wars, because you got to remember at this point, there was no thought of the Clone Wars coming back. It wasn't a thing. It was done. So I'm glad that we got to actually kind of see this on the big screen, so to speak. But I don't know.
On the big screen, he says.
Well, the 42-inch screen.
Is that what
Phrasing,
size
yes, it is 42 inches. Phrasing, yes.
No, I agree. I think that I had more of an emotional reaction to certain parts of this book by being able to be in my own element and reading it than I would if I was like sitting on the couch watching it in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And so I can appreciate having it in both mediums and having it tell a story, because kind of like Paige was saying, especially with everything else that's going on, I feel like I wouldn't have had the same reaction to some of this if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were able to maybe do this mostly in person and, go talk to your neighbors and do this and do that. But like the way that E.K. Johnston wrote this and about the loneliness and the isolation, you don't get to feel that so much in the Clone Wars in the TV show, because we're not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something else that we haven't talked about yet that I really liked, because this was obviously surprising to me when I watched Rebels, was seeing why Ahsoka took on the code name of Fulcrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was surprised that Bail Organa was in this so much. I don't know if any of you guys were surprised by how big of a part he had in this. Dugan.
Yeah, no, I was actually, and that was probably like one of my more favorite parts about the book. Because if like the end of episode 3, like, Yoda goes into hiding, Obi-Wan goes into hiding, and then Bail's like the only one kind of left that's like still hanging out like on Coruscant, still like trying to do his thing in the Senate. And then like, but then this is like fairly like early on, and then he's already like putting the gears in motion of trying to start the rebellion, or what will become that. So yeah, no, and that's something that I would like to see more of, honestly. It's like more Bail, if it is a book, if it is it'd be sweet if it was some type of like series or something like that. But it's such like a cool character that there's a huge gap kind of, and then when he gets blown away, honestly, like this is this is his last, like we don't really get that much of him after the end of episode 3 when he takes Leia home. So I enjoyed that part of the book.
There's actually a deleted scene from Revenge of the Sith that shows a meeting of Bail and Padme and Mon Mothma, the senators at the time. Kind of, this was the beginning of the high rebellion, not the, we haven't really gained a lot of support on the ground, but these higher ups being like, this isn't right, this dude's a nut job, like the democracy's gone. And George Lucas took that out, and I actually watched it recently, and I was like, boy, that is a powerful clip and a powerful story. And it's actually a really long discussion that they have about like, we need to be careful. No one talks of this. This is like, but we can't let this go on. And they all kind of agree to it. And I thought, why the hell wasn't that in the movie? That's exactly what Dugan's saying. Like Bail Organa starting that from the beginning. I mean, God rest his soul, but it just, I could use some more Bail too, and maybe we'll get it in a Cassian series. I mean, maybe, I don't know how far we're going to go back with the rebellion, but maybe more opportunity for Bail.
Let's not Bail. He has his issues, but I do think the more I read about some of the dads in Star Wars, the more I really appreciate Bail.
Let's go. A lot of deadbeat dads in the universe.
God, there's so many deadbeat dads.
Darth Vader being one of them. Let's not lie. Yeah, he was redeemed, but don't forget.
Not a great dad.
People don't forget Darth.
Han Solo wasn't a great dad. He wasn't really there for his kid.
You know who was? Bail Organa.
You know who else was? The Mandalorian.
Wow.
But
wow. Deep, Holly. Are you foreseeing a father, son like relationship here? Is that what we're building up to in season 2?
I'm like reaching out to the Force right now.
He adopted the kid. What do you think this is?
I feel it. It's the adoption force is penetrating me. I can feel it.
Wow. No, but there was one thing that I struggled with the way that Bail was portrayed, and I've kind of gone back and forth with myself on this. I think I might have texted Paige about it a little bit. The Bail that we get in this novel is very different from the Bail that we get in Leia. And I'm trying to think of how much time passes between these. Probably, what do you guys think? Like 10, 11 years, probably? If we're thinking in this novel, I don't know, maybe Leia's like 3?
Sounds about right.
I could be wrong. I don't know the exact timeline. Jory does. Jory does. A 1?
Or he's just saying she was 1 year. Yeah,
it takes place a year after Order
1 year after. Great point. How the hell did we get that wrong, Holly? 1 year after she was born. Yeah, 1 year.
No, between Ahsoka and the Leia novel.
Oh, well, sure. That, yeah.
So Leia, and I believe Leia in the Leia novel was 14, right? So it'd be 13 years. So. I mean,
okay.
So yeah, about 13 years.
Yeah.
I got my copy here.
Let's go.
16 in the Leia book.
The Schnikes. Okay.
Wait, so Ahsoka takes place 1 year after Leia was born, but then doesn't Bail talk to Leia and say, like, tell your mom?
This is the problem I had, Holly.
Wait, I'm confused.
Boy. Hey, also, save it for the podcast, Holly and Paige. I don't know why we're having discussions via text message when we know
Holly is one of the only people I talk to. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll record it next time. I mean, yeah, we got a transcript, but I can't publish that shit.
Okay, all right.
Anyway.
All right, so Bail, so in the Ahsoka novel, we have a version of Bail who's just starting to gather the rebellion.
Yes.
Right? He's starting to think about recruiting people to this cause. How are we going to fight, as he likes to say, the Chancellor, because he doesn't want to call him Emperor Palpatine, right? Which was a great slam to Palpatine.
That's awesome.
But then the Bail that we get in the Leia book is kind of like, he's more like reserved, and he's more like telling Bria, like, we don't want to be too violent. We don't want to drop any bombs.
Yeah.
We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And it's just, I kind of am with you guys. I want to know how, like, where he kind of has.
The way I look at it is that it's a little different when you're talking about, there's a few senators here. We got this idea, very close knit. Let's make some, we can't let this happen. And then you actually have systems coming together and resources, and you now have a daughter who's starting to question things. I feel like maybe some of that apprehension is starting to seep in, being like, crap, I got a lot at stake now, more so than I did before I got a kid. And, this thing could all come down all because of this, my need to make right in this galaxy. And now there's more on the line. That was kind of me. Nettie, am I wrong? Are we dealing with, is this just, two different writers, two different Bails, or is this something else?
I mean, yeah, I can definitely see that period of 15-ish years wearing somebody down as you're building up, that rebellion from scratch. And I mean, we see in Rogue One that they're not exactly a cohesive group and don't exactly agree. So that's got to be stressful. And I mean, that more time too with his daughter, that's going to build that love that could make him not want to expose her even more, I would think. I mean, obviously, I bet, two different authors definitely plays a part, but I think that is a big part of it too. Just that time span can definitely change somebody a lot. And I'm glad you brought up the scene in episode 3, because I don't know if it's canon anymore, but in the novelization for episode 3, there's a moment too where Padme basically tells Bail Organa and I think it's Mon Mothma and maybe some of the other rebellion people. She basically tells them, "You go along with Palpatine in the Senate, don't stand out, don't oppose him.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna stand out and they're gonna find you then." And Bail tells Yoda and Obi-Wan, you're gonna hear bad things about me. So assuming that stuff is canon, that could be wearing down on him too. And I think there was a scene in Leia when they're in the Senate chamber and they're talking about Christophsis, and Bail just kind of looks at Leia sad because they both realize what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would definitely have to be putting a lot of wear on him too. You would think, knowing you're helpless to do the right thing.
Eddie making a deep cut. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Senate was intact up until A New Hope. Remember, the Emperor dissolves the Senate, but what are you going to do? How can you maintain order? And he just gets rid of them. So, I mean, I don't know how long Bale was kind of in that role, but Nettie's so right.
Yeah.
Like, the Senate was still in existence, and yeah, you don't want to stand out. So, hey guys, don't mind me if I'm speaking with a British accent over there, calling for tyranny. That's me, bro. It's me. It's Bale. So I can totally see that as being realistic, Holly.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, see, that's why we have these
Let's
conversations
go.
with
Let's
you guys.
go.
Because it's so much better to talk about it together, because sometimes I read it and I just maybe don't comprehend it. No, I'm just kidding. I totally do, Jory.
But that's something though that you wouldn't know, because they cut it out of Revenge of the Sith unless you had read that novelization. Yeah. That's why Luke, speaks, on almost every podcast we talk about, like, these novelizations of these movies are often very important because fine details like that you may question. Why is Bale acting so weird? Well, he's got a lot on his mind. He's got a family now. He's got to keep, his good graces with the Senate and those that are actually leading it. And it's just so much going on.
This is why I like TV shows over movies. I'm sorry, but we just have more time to spend with these characters. Yeah. And if we ever got a TV show about Bail Organa, I would be so down.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But then people will be like, but we know he blows up in Alderaan. It's like, get over it. There's a lot of story to be told.
I just need to know more. Yeah. I don't know. That's something that pleasantly surprised me. I went into the Ahsoka novel without knowing anything about it, which is something that I tend to do with Star Wars. Yeah. I try to not know a lot about the things because I like to be surprised with that. And I just was pleasantly surprised that Bail Organa was in here, because he's starting to be one of my favorite characters. Sadly, we know what happens to him. Can I just
interject for a second? Are we the people that wrote the review that said there was too much Ahsoka in the Ahsoka book? I'm starting to wonder if we wrote that in our sleep.
What if there was too much Bail?
There's not enough Bail in the Ahsoka book. 2 out of 5 stars. Come on.
He's only in 2/3 of the book. Oh my
God. That's it. We're going to tweet at E.K. Johnston and be like, I'm sorry, you needed more Bail.
I don't think E.K. Johnston would stand for that. No, she would let you know that she would.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something that I really enjoyed about it, and I was so surprised.
BTW, in case you saw Brent left, Brent had an obligation he had to attend to. He said he might be back, so he didn't just bail on everyone and say, screw you. He had something else going on, FYI. Back to the podcast.
I will tell you guys something else that I really liked about this was Ahsoka's relationship with the daughter, and I can't remember her name, so somebody tell me what her name was. The Force-sensitive daughter? One of the Farty sisters.
Was it Caden?
Hidala.
No. Yeah, Hidala.
Yeah. Yep. I thought that was great, and how she kind of almost thought how to approach this girl in terms of if the girl were her Padawan or her youngling. And I like seeing Ahsoka kind of take on that next role, that if she had stayed in the Jedi Council and then Order 66 hadn't have happened, she would have probably assumed.
Oh, that's a what if moment, Holly. I would love to hear about.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, guys? What if?
God, what if Order 66 didn't happen? How boring would Star Wars be? God. It'd be the High Republic just forever, right? Gold robes. Lots of fun times.
No, they weren't wearing gold robes.
Yeah.
Before, right now.
They're not in the High Republic, Holly. Holly, this is Star Wars, a space opera written by George Lucas. In case you haven't heard of it.
But yeah, actually, since Jory brought up Caden, I do want to get into talking about that relationship, because I think that was something that we saw people say in the reviews that they did not appreciate, and I did not appreciate them saying they didn't appreciate it.
A lot of non-appreciation going on.
I think that, first of all, I think that was a surprising relationship where we had Caden kind of expressing interest in her or exploring her feelings about Ahsoka, because I think that's not something that we get very often in Star Wars. And so I kind of like to see how the characters kind of dealt with those feelings, especially under pressure and especially from so many different places. But Paige, I feel like you probably had a lot of feelings about that too.
Let's go. Deep breath in.
Okay.
Exhale.
Okay. Well, first off, Caden is canon bisexual. First off.
Canon.
Big ups big ups to E.K. Johnston for giving my people representation. I appreciate it. And because she has a Tumblr, she's one of my people. She has a
Let's
Tumblr.
go. One of the
She
few still
advertised-
on Tumblr.
She advertises
She
her
does.
Tumblr in the book.
And all the younglings are like, what the hell's Tumblr?
People asked her if Ahsoka is queer, and she's like, she can't confirm or deny anything. She's not allowed to.
Yeah.
But she's like, she's like Mark Hamill. She's like, Ahsoka can be whatever you want her to be.
Exactly.
So for me, Ahsoka is queer. Thank you. I thought that it was great. I think it's not like Kaden is all up on people. I think it was very subtly queer, like normal people are. It's not the most important thing about her as a character.
Yeah.
She's just a person.
Yeah.
She just happens to be bisexual and also into Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Who's not into Ahsoka?
I'm into Ahsoka.
And I'm not really into what's her species? Togrutas?
Tortugas.
Well, not really my
yeah,
thing.
Tortugas, yeah.
Togrutas, Tortugas, I mean Tostitos,
Tortuga,
whatever they
that's
are.
fine.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I really liked it. I also understand Ahsoka being like, I don't know what that's about, and walking away, because I would react the same way. I thought it was very relatable content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think something else about kind of Ahsoka's response to Kaden, because she says when Ahsoka rescues her from the Inquisitor, she's like, I could kiss you right now.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka was kind of like, what?
What's a kiss?
But I think, yeah, exactly.
The council didn't tell me about that.
Exactly.
That's not in the Jedi handbook.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And I think that speaks so strongly to, here's Ahsoka outside of the Jedi Council, surviving Order 66, having to be alone already, but she's never learned how to develop relationships with anybody in her life, because she started out as a child with trust issues.
Yes.
Yoda broke those walls down and then built her back up to have other trust issues.
You're
because
absolutely
she
right.
can't have these relationships, right?
Yeah.
And so here she is in need of building relationships to literally survive.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. Sorry, Obi-Wan. It's just not sustainable to live by yourself.
Wow.
Isolate yourself from everybody. You need to have those human interactions. But the Jedi Council set her up to not know how to form those in a time where she needs to.
Ding, ding, ding. It's a big problem.
Big problem. Big problem.
And that's why they all failed. That's why.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, obviously the biggest story we have of that failure is Anakin Skywalker. But yeah, I can't imagine, someone being like, hey, Ahsoka, what's up? She's like, I don't know what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to survive and not get my head cut off. And it's like, I mean, and in Star Wars, this is canon, folks. A kiss is an elevated form of affection, maybe borderline intercourse. So if they were to go there, and that's a big deal. That's jumping clear to third base. Possibly a full home run, Holly.
But we got it at the end of The Rise of Skywalker.
We did. That is, I mean, they may have conceived in that moment. That was a long enough kiss. We're not sure. We'll see if they make an episode 10.
Well, we got a queer kiss and we got the Reylo kiss.
Well, let's be honest. That was a dumbed down queer kiss with The Rise of Skywalker. I mean,
we don't talk about that.
Yeah, that was an
that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted a Poe and Finn kiss. That's what we were promised, and we were lied to.
And they did a great job of teasing that. I would say John Boyega and
Oscar Isaac.
Oh, they didn't do it. We were queer baited. They were trying to get us that content, but everybody else queer baited everyone.
Yeah, I blame the Reylos, but you know what? That's just me.
Oh, it's not their fault, but I could do a whole podcast about it.
We can blame them for everything, so that's okay. Whether or not it's fact, we'll blame
That's
them.
fine.
Holly, we our late arrival, as usual, may have been doing another NFL fantasy draft. I'm not sure. Maybe he was watching the Lakers. I don't even know if that game's happening right now. Could have been playing Fortnite with some Marvel characters, maybe. I think that's a thing. I saw that on the YouTubes. I don't know if it's actually happening. But Rob, I want to get your general thoughts on Ahsoka. We've got a lot of discussion so far, so I mean, if you can dive in deep, that's fantastic. But what did you think of the book?
All right. Well, first of all, I like Dark Disciple way more.
Hey, that's fair.
I'm sorry. Maybe I should have said that with my Kylo Ren mask on. But in context, it reminded me of another episode of Clone Wars, which I did not hate. I loved the book. I thought it was cool, but it was like after watching the season finale and she was all fixing stuff and then go right into a book and she was fixing stuff, I felt like she was just fixing stuff. But I will say.
That's what Force users do. Remember Annie? He was fixing
Wait, and she's a mechanic.
Yeah, I know.
I know she is.
She is.
But overall, the end with the sixth brother and how it all went down and how she was able to vanquish and, use the suit ultimately against him. And then the way that she reiterated, sorry.
Yeah.
I need more beer. Anyway, the way the way she said that was perfect. Like she said, hey, he shouldn't have been naive. He shouldn't have he should have put the face mask down. He shouldn't have tried to go on like that. He might have been able to live, but that was his fault. And the way the whole talking with the Inquisitor at the end too, I think it just sets up for that whole time frame that was nice. So it was good. I did like it, but I just like the dark side a little more when it's explained in books. And for me, this is one of those novels that reminds me of it's like, okay, yay. And then I want some shit. I want
some dark side magic, some bleeding kyber crystals, beheadings. I get it.
What he wants is a novel. There he goes.
Brother and sister action. I mean, I'm sure there's some of that in Star Wars.
Maybe a little bit.
That's fair.
He wants that novel written from the six brothers' point of view.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of Inquisitors out there that I would like to get some of their backstory too. Maybe that's a thing.
That would be nice. I mean, but overall, like I think sometimes reading this is where reading the expanded universe kind of dilutes other things because you get so used to all those crazy stories and then the betrayals and then this and then that. And then we all know, I don't have to mention, the Queen of the Stars name at all, but it just does that. So when you run across like novels, and there's been more like these, I've read other novels that were just like, okay, that was, pretty, the same with even Anne Rice's novels and The Queen of the Damned. When I read Vittorio, I was like, or Vittorio, to me, it was like, whatever. Didn't need it. More Lestat, please. More Anakin, more Luke, more Leia, more of that. But I did like the way she also explained the way she used the crystals and that they were bleeding. I actually never knew that.
Yeah.
And then she unbled them and they became pure white. So I do gotta say that was fantastic. So I did not hate the book. It was a great book. I give it a 4 out of 5 because I did love the ending.
Holly, a better review than those Goodreads reviews. I will say that. So we know for sure Rob was not the one saying there was too much Ahsoka in the Ahsoka novel.
That's right. Boy, that feels good to know that.
Feels good to know that none of our panelists here left that review.
That would have been bad.
That would have been bad.
But still, I don't know. Maybe too much Bail Organa, I guess.
Could be too much Bail. I mean, he's dominated a lot of the conversation.
I wouldn't mind getting another Ahsoka book to kind of fill in. Okay, now that we've established her becoming Fulcrum, what are some of the other missions that she's been doing? Who else did she help recruit to the rebellion?
Yeah.
Did she get to work with young Princess Leia when she got a little bit older? Because we do see Princess Leia show up in Rebels. And we know that Ahsoka is still working with Bail as Fulcrum. So what happens there?
Well, she's still got it. That's for sure. I mean, Rob bringing up, dominating the sixth brother, the 20th sister, whoever it was, she still has it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, she came back in the Clone Wars, dominated. Came back in Rebels, it's not a she can fight whenever, wherever. But those trust issues, Holly, I mean, what's it going to take to get her in the rebellion and gaining allies? And she's kind of a one-man show a lot of the time in Star Wars, but she's going to have to rely on a lot of different people. We ultimately know that relationship could even be with Sabine Wren, and who knows where that adventure goes, but a lot of trust.
I will say, and this is something that Kaden points out in the novel too, she does, after she has that encounter with the bounty hunters who were upset because they said that she owed that crime syndicate money. She, you guys know the whole thing was running humanitarian missions when she didn't really know she was.
Yeah.
she did gain back her confidence after she had that moment. So that was such a pivotal moment for her in this book, because that's when she realized, I don't have to be Ashla, which, by the way, we didn't talk about, but I think, in my opinion, Ashla was kind of like a nod to Ashley for playing Ahsoka. So I thought that was kind of nice. But she realized she didn't need to have that as an alias anymore. She could just be Ahsoka Tano.
Yeah. And own it and be a badass that the galaxy needs.
Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of that moment helped her trust herself and have confidence in what she was there to do.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately in the end, that's going to help with her trust issues down the road. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, my question is then, like, are we going to, people talk about a post-Clone Wars Ahsoka series. That's, I don't know. You don't know what to believe on the internet. Everything's a possibility according to all these insiders that aren't actual insiders in Star Wars. But I mean, there's some history here then that we could rely on with the Bail interactions with Ahsoka. Are we going to get that in a series, Ollie?
I would love to get that in a series.
This is canon.
But I guess we can see what everybody else thinks.
Jory, what do you want now, post Ahsoka, but pre-Rebels?
That in between.
That sweet spot.
Ooh, I'm not sure, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's tough.
It is. It's really tough. I mean,
is that like is that a Cassian series? Wait, that's way later. That's way later.
So pre-Rebels, post-Ahsoka. I mean, you could give us. Honestly, you can give us more Ahsoka. I mean, that'd be fine. Just give us another book like that. I'm very okay with that.
Yeah.
You could give us what's the Bad Batch doing? What's Rex doing? Things like that. I'm definitely down to see what those clones did post. Because honestly, we get a mention of Rex. We get a mention. We didn't even get a mention of Bad Batch, I don't think. So, you can, if you could get something along those lines of, what happened to those troopers. I'd definitely be down to see what's going on with that.
Yeah. All right, anyone else? Are we done with Ahsoka? Is this it?
No way. I think, like Holly, there's so many opportunities to get what you're asking for. More Fulcrum Ahsoka potentially. Yeah, depending on what time period the Bad Batch covers, I think it's going to start a lot closer to Revenge of the Sith. But then who knows kind of how long it will stretch. But then, like we've mentioned several times, there's the Cassian series coming in that in between episode 3 and episode 4 time period. There's the Obi-Wan series. So there's tons of potential to drop her in, whether or not. I don't think you can put her in everything. It's like,
yeah,
don't put Ahsoka in everything. As wonderful as she is, as much as we love her, then it might get to be like, okay, does Ahsoka have to be in everything?
Yeah.
But there's so many places that she could drop in. It's rumored she's in Mandalorian season 2. That's obviously a much different story time frame in the canon. But you could definitely drop her into one of the other 3 that I mentioned. Integrate her in there, and we get more of what we want, because we always seem to want more of her.
Yeah.
And I want to connect a little bit. I missed some of the discussion, but part of the discussion about her inability or struggle to kind of form relationships because of how the Jedi were viewing that as she was being brought through as a Padawan. Not seeing it as a strength or a potential strength, but only seeing it as like a way to fall or become weaker by becoming too personally attached to different things. There was a great, I think one of the best interludes that EK wrote was the Obi-Wan, just alone on Tatooine. We've kind of alluded to it a few times as well. It says that he felt like, shame that they left Shmi behind in slavery on Tatooine, and that since he was on Tatooine, in isolation, he went to her grave and apologized to her for losing Anakin, and how he felt shame that they never let Anakin go back and try to free her. And luckily, she eventually was freed, but then, ultimately, perished. And that, like, Obi-Wan working through the failings of the Jedi teaching and the Jedi dogma of the time that Ahsoka is also sort of working through and growing beyond in her post Jedi life. I thought that was a really fascinating way to connect it, and really powerful stuff to think about Obi-Wan standing in front of Shmi's grave. And,
Yeah.
I thought that, like I said, I think E.K. Johnston just gets Star Wars and writes beautiful moments like that really well.
Holly,
Yeah.
it's a moment I want to see in the Kenobi series. And when he's talking about Obi-Wan, I'm reminded of the discussion you and I had. I think it was Bail talking to Ahsoka, right? And talking about Obi-Wan and his isolation and how, what was it, that he is
focusing on the future
looking
and
towards the future,
not the present.
and not the present. We need someone in the now. Yeah, he's out there. Yoda and him are out there, and they're waiting. They're waiting for the actual chosen one. That's my opinion. I know that's not a popular one, but we're waiting for a new hope. We're waiting for a sign for the next, for the next savior. We're gonna groom that idea, but we need someone in the now to fight evil. And to me, that's the Rebels crew. That's Ahsoka. That's the people fighting the fight that has to take place in order for even Luke Skywalker to have that moment. You don't have Luke Skywalker if you don't have the rebellion. You don't have Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and them having these moments if you don't have the people putting in the groundwork.
Yeah.
And it's something that we tend to forget about because we love those heroes. But what about the now?
Yeah. And that's something that's so great about this book too, is that, some people criticize it for, it's just Ahsoka running around trying to find her new purpose. Aren't we all?
Amen. Preach every day. Okay?
Here we are.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great because she had all these skills that she had learned. And then she was like, what does it all mean? Because now everything's been lost. And then she realizes, I'm not even going to question it because I have this newfound confidence and I understand where my place in all of this is now. And I know what I have to do.
I can fix a bad motivator if that has to become my lifestyle. Like if there's no hero to be played, I can be a mechanic the rest of my life if I need to. I've got that down pat.
We'll fix that thresher so you don't shred yourself in the fields anymore.
What?
Oh, it happened in the book. You'd have to read it.
Boy, don't recall that moment. But I thought that's such a cool. I don't know. I never really thought of Star Wars in that way, right? That Obi-Wan and Yoda, they seem like they're the only ones out there. That they're the only ones left. We put all of our eggs in those two, and then Luke comes along. But like, what about the now? What about those that were still fighting tyranny? It's just there's so many stories to be told, and I think that's why I'm excited for more Ahsoka. Yeah, it's gonna be great to find out what her and Sabine do, but like, I would love to hear more about this and the initial phases of the rebellion, and even the Cassian series, and like what these people went through, and they went through hardships too. Remember, Cassian lost everything as well. We have other characters that lose everything and choose to join the fight because that's what's necessary in the moment. It's just I want to see more of that in Star Wars.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll jump to Paige and then to Nettie because I think Nettie also had something to say about where he'd like to see Ahsoka.
I just wanted to say I think Michael is exactly right. Because all of like the battles and lightsabers and all that's great, but at the end of the day you have to deal with consequences of all of that.
Yeah.
War and all of that. I mean, she has severe survivor's guilt this entire time.
Yeah.
Like she still has feelings, and I know that's very boring and people don't care about that normally. But you still have to deal with the very real emotions that come from these kinds of things. And I think that's very important that these kinds of novels exist because you see and you have to go through that with the character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me personally, that's why it was so cathartic to go through the book. As far as how difficult as it was for me to read it, I hope that like we get more of that kind of content from Star Wars. Like Cassian would be a great way to do that. His dad got murdered by the rebellion. Yeah. But he still goes and works with the rebellion. I would love to hear more about his thought process behind that. That would be great. So I hope that we get more of this kind of filler content in the meantime between the new Disney Plus kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Nettie.
All right. So the first thing I thought of when you mentioned that time period and filling in some gaps, and this is probably because I'm a gamer, but I'm just gonna say it, that Fallen Order ended off in a good enough spot that we could have a Fallen Order 2, and that's during that time frame.
Absolutely.
I mean, like we mentioned too, there's Black Sun, the crime syndicate in Fallen Order. I can't remember if it's given a specific name, but we know Grease has, his issues with shady organizations like that. It's possible their paths cross like that. Ahsoka talks about going and finding more children that are force sensitive and all of that. I mean, that's the entire plot of Fallen Order. I won't go into the spoilers at the end, but that's a big part of it. I think there's a lot of ways you could bring Ahsoka into a Fallen Order sequel if you wanted, and you probably have to jump more like 10 years or 5 years or so, but you could even bring in like Maul and Kira in there too.
Yeah.
For some solo sequel too. I mean, that might be getting a little excessive, but a video game is also, you can make a video game a lot longer than a movie ever could be, and even probably a book too. You could definitely expand that out. So I think that'd be a good place to explore some of that.
God, yes. I forgot about Kira. Like, she's another person seen some crap, kind of had to go along with things and make her own path, and her future completely unknown.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Earlier today, Michael and I were kind of talking about the connection between this Ahsoka novel and what was going on in Fallen Order. No spoilers, because I know Paige has been blowing through that.
I know what happens. I know what happens.
Okay.
I got off Zepho. I'll have you know. I'm back to Kashyyyk now. I'll have you know. I know what happens.
Let's go.
I know what happens. I'm not happy about it.
You could not avoid spoilers. They were everywhere.
No, they really were.
I'm on Tumblr.
She's seen it all.
Tumblr is spoiling Revenge of the Sith right now. That's how behind Tumblr is.
God.
No, Michael, you have no idea.
No, I
am. The things I've seen the past week, Michael, you have no idea.
They're seeing the freaking future. God damn it! I need to get back on Tumblr. Had a few pages, Holly. Spoiler warning. It did some stand-up comedy. Actually, that's not true at all. They were sketches. Back in the day, I don't think you could find them anymore. But hey, I'll do a Google search.
He'll find them for you.
Absolutely.
But I think that even though I think I kind of said this earlier, there's a big time gap between when Ahsoka was written and when Fallen Order came out, right? But they align so perfectly when you're on Ilum. And we see in the Ahsoka novel that there's all the drilling that's happening. The Empire's just going in and destroying this planet.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we see in Fallen Order.
Yeah.
And it just aligns so well. And we know that Cal was looking for something specific that is brought up in this novel multiple times.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka knows it exists. And like Nettie said, she wants to do something about it to make sure that these children are safe.
Yeah.
So at some point, I would imagine if she's trying to recruit people for the rebellion, I mean, Cal has to be in there. Like, he's not in hiding. They know that he exists. The Empire's specifically looking for him.
And isn't it crazy, like, how desperate things were, how many stories we have of these heroes trying to look for these force sensitives to save everything. And it ends up being a lot of your just regular ass people that end up saving the day with, a hero shot from Luke Skywalker and mass murder occurring on the Death Star. But I mean, like, it's crazy how it almost is overplayed, right? But what they did in Fallen Order is better than anything they've ever done with holocrons and force users and all that. Like, what they did at the end of that is perfect. That's this kind of newer age, the Force, and how it's your destiny that's to be determined, not someone else to determine it for you. I think let's go with that.
That's Michael's Star Wars.
That's the jam right there. That's my jam.
That Star Wars slaps.
That's right. Why the hell are we leaving things around with a bunch of names in them anyway? What do you want, a roadmap right to these people? Like, come on. Get out of here with that.
I just think that, I don't know, that's just such an interesting thing, like you said, that would even exist. Everybody wants their little paws on it, but... Yeah,
they're so dangerous, and why do we have them? Like, let's just... Anyway, Cal was ahead of the game, ahead of everyone. So I hope good things happen with Cal, but he'll probably be murdered. So let's be honest. He's going to make a big sacrifice. I don't know.
That's like the Jedi way, though, right? They try to make this, in the end, big sacrifice for the greater good, right?
They do. Boy, we have steered far off Ahsoka, but I love it because I think her story just generates so many thoughts. It's a simple story, but I think those added nuggets they add a lot more to the discussion there. But let's get some final thoughts, Holly. You want to hear some final thoughts?
I do want to hear some
Running
final
on an
thoughts.
hour and a half, so
Yeah, we'll wrap it up. We'll get some final thoughts. I think maybe Rob had one to throw in there.
Yeah.
Just a tad. So I pretty much already gave my final thoughts when I talked about the whole end of the novel and everything like that. So, but for me, when you guys brought up the Ahsoka novel, then falling into the Fallen Order genre after that, and then trying to match everything with Cassian, I think it would make perfect sense if we knew about that time period after her when Ezra pulls her through that time portal.
Yeah.
And I think if you fill that time period can take her to the point of where the Mando is happening, where she's that older Ahsoka that we all want to see. We want to see that. And I think that if you do Ahsoka after that, I don't know what that would do, because apparently from canon right now, you're pretty boring if you're an old Jedi in any of their movies, like what happened with Luke.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see Ahsoka after all this crap hit the fan. And when you brought up the end, am I spoiling the end of Fallen Order for Paige? Okay,
I
so
think
won't
we
say-
all know it.
No, I know what
Okay.
happens.
Unless
Okay.
Dugan hasn't finished it. He's good.
He's good.
Okay.
He's good.
Okay,
Spoil the
so-
hell out of it.
So for me, when you see that cow, and yes, he probably will be killed. So that means Siri is also killed too. And she was pretty powerful. So if this happens, and we brought this up in a previous podcast, if they do part 2, like a 5 or a 10-year gap, then Cal will have matured his powers. Siri will be older. And then maybe you get the Obi-Wan kind of dying, and then Cal goes forward. But then what do you do with Cal? And then that's the beauty of Star Wars.
God,
So much.
I think if Ahsoka needs anyone, it's Cal. I think her and Cal would make a great pair
Yeah.
to just team up, and like he is very trusting. Maybe it's a problem. Maybe he'll run into some problems. But for a minute there, I was like, is he just gonna like try to buddy it up with Darth Vader and he's gonna get choked out and that's the end of the game? I was like, shit, that's a terrible way to end it. But I feel like he's someone that can get you out of your shell. We saw that with his whole crew there. I think Ahsoka and him at least meeting and having a moment to just kind of, I don't know, just bounce their experiences off each other would be a hell of a story for me. I don't know what that would look like, but I'm absolutely down.
There's so many good characters to say. I want to see them team up with Ahsoka.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of overwhelming to think about.
Yeah. I think you even said Mace and Ahsoka at one time, Holly. I mean, just going out,
Okay. For
one
the
hand
record,
Mace Windu and Ahsoka are battling evil.
Mace Windu was not my favorite character.
Yeah.
But we are watching some of the episodes of the Clone Wars that I didn't get to watch, and there was
Mace fan.
No, I'm not a huge Mace fan. His purple lightsaber is pretty baller, so that would be my choice for a lightsaber. See, thank you. Everybody agrees.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. There are some moves that he had in this one episode of the Clone Wars we watched the other night, and I was like, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a smooth guy.
Pretty, not that kind of move.
No.
Just like agile and I don't know, good at.
Yeah, flexible, agile.
Good at that Jedi
absolutely.
thing. Whatever. Okay.
Really good calisthenics. I agree.
Okay.
Dugan, any final thoughts, man? Like Ahsoka, the book, the character. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, no. I really like what Rob was just saying, especially about tying it to Fallen Order. That was actually one of the first video games I've actually played in like 15 years.
Go.
And like I feel like beforehand, like I would never go slowly through games. Like when you would used to have to watch like the story part of something, sometimes you would just want to like speed through it.
Yeah.
Like I think like James Bond back in the day, like Nintendo 64, just like going real quick through it. And so, but like it was like I loved Fallen Order, and so to tie that to Ahsoka, that would be great. But I think I'm just like more interested to seeing her come out in Mando and seeing how her character goes there. I think Yeah, I don't know. I think that's where I would like to see her. But yeah, and also just like with like the brothers, and I would like to know more about like the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
And that's something that and I may have just like missed the bus on that one, but like I feel like that's something that like I just like don't really know that much about, and like who are these like guys, who are these entities, and that would be something I would be interested in reading more about or seeing more.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I asked Michael. I mean, he already called me a 3-year-old earlier, but
whoa,
I couldn't stop asking questions. I'm like reading the end of Ahsoka, and I'm like, wait a second.
Why?
This Inquisitor said this isn't the first time that he had a lightsaber. Who is he? Where did he come from? Who recruited him?
How's a laser sword made? How do you swing that thing? How long is it? How big your hand have to be? Like, it was a lot of questions.
It was a lot of questions. They weren't those ones specifically, but there were questions. But I would love to know more about the Inquisitors, because I just want to know, like, what persuaded them to join the dark side.
Obviously, the dark side is very tempting, as Brent can tell you. They're an Exegol running the Sith Empire. It's very persuading. But some of them were Jedi who turned, right? But then we see some stories in the comic books. Some of them actually are like, this shit's getting crazy. We're getting out of here. And these people end up getting executed by Darth Vader. But like, some of them end up getting unconscious, and they're like, we're going to go do our own thing. I didn't sign up for this. But yeah, we don't really know a ton about like their stories and what made them. Yeah, like you just witness mass murder, and you're like, let's join these guys. Yeah, why not?
No, question number 2 about the Inquisitors that I need to know the answer to is, if they're not using their original lightsabers or their original crystals that were in their first lightsabers, what happened to them?
Yes.
I need to know that, because now we have all this lightsaber lore, but then they're saying,
they bleed.
Oh, yeah, but they're saying this isn't the first lightsaber that I've ever held. So what did they just find a new crystal? Does their crystal not want to be with them anymore because they've turned to the dark side? Like, I need more of that.
They're not lightsaber virgins, but there was a mass gathering of all kyber crystals in the known galaxy, and they destroyed them. But remember, they got those like double-edged like helicopter like spinny things, so they could have found other crystals. Maybe they just bled existing ones.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think that we now know, after reading this book, that those spinny helicopter sabers are a terrible idea.
Whoa, Paige likes them, so I'm gonna give it to Paige. Maybe Paige, your final thoughts are just how maybe it's a 3-part essay on why Inquisitorious laser swords are the best.
I mean, I think that Trilla is the only one who should be allowed to use them, because she can articulate it really well.
Let's talk about Trilla.
I think I could do a podcast on Trilla and how much I love her. I love her so much, and I feel
Paige
really robbed because
the Trilla podcast. Yeah,
I'll do a podcast with you.
Let's do it.
I'll do it. I love her so much. I was just waiting for her to show back up, and she showed back up last night, and I was really excited.
She shows up in my dreams. Spoiler for my dreams.
She beat my ass, but I was like, all right, that's fine.
Like, there's something to it. Like, go do it again, Trilla. Sorry,
it's fine. It's fine. I'm sorry.
No.
No, I love those lightsabers. I don't know how they work. I don't think they're very practical.
But you can fly.
But they're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I don't think it makes much sense. But I also would like to know more about the Inquisitors. I have a lot of questions. Some of the same questions that Holly has, but I'm not going to repeat them because I don't want to be called a 3-year-old. Anyway,
See?
back to the book. I liked the book. We didn't talk about the Empire guy who was useless and was just kind of there. I don't know why he was really ever mentioned, but he was just there.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really knew why he was the one who was chosen to be there anyway.
I don't know.
He was there, and then he was like, I gotta go. So he just left. But I don't know why he was there. I really like the idea of Ahsoka in Fallen Order, and that's it. I'm not excited for her to be in Mando.
Yeah.
There are very specific reasons, and they rely entirely with the actress. Thank you.
Hey,
so
fair.
actress aside.
Actress aside, let's
yeah,
say
I have
shows up.
I have a lot of concerns about Mando being crowded, and I know I'm the unpopular opinion puffin.
No,
I know that. I'm here for Din. I'm only here for Din. If Din's gone, I'm out. So
That's
But
fair.
yeah, no, I have a big problem with Rosario. There's lots of problems with Rosario within the LGBTQIA community. You can Google it. Yes. So
That's
I'm
fair.
very nervous. I'm very nervous. I've been very worried for this trailer. I don't know when it's coming out.
Maybe we just don't get one.
Hey, you can't
Maybe
believe
it won't
any of-
happen.
You can't believe it may not even happen at all. The whole show may just be done.
yeah,
You can't believe the
canceled.
rumors. There may be it may just be Baby Yoda and Mando, and that's it.
If that's
maybe-
it, then I will be full of bliss. But I'm very nervous.
That's fair. That's fair. But does love Ahsoka, Holly Page, big Ahsoka fan.
Big Ahsoka.
I love
Big
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka fan. Big
Who
Ahsoka.
It's
doesn't?
nothing to do with her. It's
That's
just
okay.
other things.
That's okay. Nettie, final thoughts. Maybe it's about laser swords. Maybe it's about Ahsoka.
All right. So first, one plug, and you kind of plugged this, Michael, but you get a little bit more Inquisitor information if you read the Darth Vader Dark Lords of the Sith comic line.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like the first time I learned anything about him other than like Rebels. So
Andy's
I
writing it down.
I recommend reading that. It doesn't answer all the questions you guys have, I bet, but it definitely answers some. I thought it was a really good line. But in terms of the book, yeah, see, like I said, I really enjoy it. I think EK does a great job of just tying a bunch of threads together in there, and like everybody's been saying, she really knows Star Wars. Like there's kind of like a throwaway line in there that like the plant they're growing on the moon helps you like walk in low gravity better, i.e. Death Star. Like that's just like a one throwaway line that ties in so well
Let's
with
go.
the Obi-Wan Qui-Gon line and stuff, and then obviously Ahsoka and everything. So she just ties everything in really well, and I really enjoy it. And this is a conversation probably for another podcast, but what I want to know with the laser swords is, so you can get a red crystal by bleeding it and a white crystal by purifying a corrupted one. What makes a black crystal? Because I'm assuming the dark saber has a black crystal.
Ow.
I want to know that now, too. Like, that's
Yes.
fucking me. Maybe
That's a
Mando
great
season 2.
point. That's a great point. Yeah, maybe we find out it's freaking like where it start. Like we know how it kind of came about, but not like how it came about. Like how did they create it? Like we know it was a Mandalorian Jedi, but like why did
Who
he
is
have such a
she?
wicked sword? Like like emphasize the W. Can we start having Nettie write the show notes? Because if he's gonna pull that kind of stuff, I mean that's the kind of discussion material when we get those deep cuts that really just lift my spirits. Brent, final thoughts from Exegol. Maybe this book should be thrown away because it's too much light side. There's too much Ahsoka. But I mean, final thoughts, my friend.
All right, final thoughts. I mean, it was a great book. I don't know if you guys covered this while I was away dealing with the younglings, but if so, then go ahead and stop me. But I love at the very beginning of the book, I think when she's trying to get away from that spaceport she's initially at when she's first leaving everything, she makes a comparison to Anakin and Obi-Wan when she's trying to get out. She's like, thinking about it. She's like, if Anakin were to do this, he'd make a big scene, a huge commotion, and he'd be caught. And if Obi-Wan were to do this, he'd try and like evade everything. He'd be really cool and he'd be really sneaky, but he'd get caught.
Yeah.
Like, so in the end, they have the same results or whatever. So she's like, I just have to do this my own way. And I just love that they set that up right off the bat, that whole dichotomy, but the similarities between basically her two masters, because it was Anakin, but Obi-Wan was always there as well.
Yeah.
It's over her shoulder and stuff like that. So she barely had two masters and stuff like that. And just to set that up right off the bat, that was one of my favorite parts of the entire book.
It was a nice nod to, but like you think of, Anakin's her master, but like she was with Obi-Wan so much because Anakin was out doing shit he wasn't told to do. So someone had to be listening to orders, and that was Obi-Wan Kenobi. But and you're right too, like she's thinking fondly of Anakin. And like as much as there were differences in the Clone Wars, like even when Maul says Anakin's the key to everything, Sidious has been grooming him, she just not Anakin.
Will not believe it.
And for years, that's what I want to know. Like in Rebels, still, I mean, maybe there were some doubts that did he die or did he turn? Maybe not, but like she's also grappling with losing Anakin, just like Obi-Wan is. I mean, obviously Obi-Wan knows what really happened, but I mean, just grappling with it in a different way. But I like that, another nod there to, thinking fondly of Annie as he's slaughtering younglings. Like, God, I mean, come on, Ahsoka, get it together. Maul told you what he was doing. But anyway, I digress. Let's not listen to Maul.
Can't believe
Maybe
him.
the most enlightened person in Star Wars, and we just cut him in half and push him to the side. Anyway, Holly, I'm done. Luke, you got some final thoughts, my friend, on Ahsoka or laser swords or Maul or whatever it may be?
That's harsh to throw to me after this epic rant that you go on. Like, how am I supposed to follow this?
Should have just stopped the recording right then and there.
I should have just walked away. Walk away. No, yeah. If you see E.K. Johnston in Star Wars on a book, go ahead and grab it. As we've said throughout, she writes the characters you love and know in new and interesting ways that you might not have expected of them. Gives you new insights, connects things really well. We're always looking for all the connections and the grand webbing of all of Star Wars, and she does it in really interesting ways, really satisfying ways. So no, you can't go wrong grabbing this, give it a read. Like everyone said, it's in that YA category, so it's like an easier read to get through. And I just read Queen's Peril, and I've read Queen's Shadow as well, are very similar in that way, enjoyable, fun reads. So go for it.
EK, Holly, one of the OGs in new canon novels, which I'm kind of pumped about. There's a lot of Chuck Wendigham in the beginning. He was kind of seemed like one of the big, he's kind of like the Charles Soule of comics in the novel area. It seemed like he was going to be one of the big ones, but his departure, I will just put it at that, has allowed, I think, for some other authors to get in there and offer stories, EK being one of them. It's one of those OG authors now. You can really bank on creating great Star Wars content, and I cannot wait to see. I don't know if she has any involvement in the High Republic. I hope so. But hopefully we're going to see even more from her, because I loved being at the panel when we heard from her. She is a funny lady, and she writes Star Wars well, and you could tell that she was a fan of it, and I think that's why she writes it so well. But she is awesome. I'm looking forward to more from her. But Jory, coming to you with final thoughts, my friend. You've been a quiet one, and I think that's probably just because I talk too much. But I want you to get all your thoughts out now.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. No, I thought it was a really good book. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I thought it was a good book for kids that, if they enjoy the Clone Wars, this would be a good one for them to read, to be able to connect with their character. I had some connections that I thought were kind of cool. And I actually think we talked about this last time. How Ashla is actually the name, the Lasats. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. That's the name that they give the Force, which I thought was kind of a cool connection. It's also, if you kind of put names together, it's Ashley Eckstein and Ahsoka kind of combined. So I don't know if they're giving a little nod there. That was kind of cool. And then there was a continuity error in the book, and I don't know if anybody else caught it. I actually caught it when I was reading it, or not reading it, but listening to it. The very first time I listened to it, and I wasn't sure. And then the second time I listened to it, I was like, yeah, definitely continuity error. Vartan, when she walks into the bar, I guess you'd say.
Zelda's.
Zelda's, yep. When Ahsoka walks into Zelda's and they're doing their very first plotting and talking about the Empire and things like that, Vartan actually calls her Ahsoka. He says Ahsoka's right, because she wipes the board away, and they're like, we were working on that. And she's like, you guys need to be more careful. And Vartan actually calls her Ahsoka, which they don't know she's Ahsoka yet. They still think she's Ashla. And that was just a continuity error in the book by E.K. Johnston, which it's whatever, it happens.
That's awesome.
But they actually did mention it in the wiki. And then And then just going back to what somebody was talking about it earlier, about Ahsoka and like reflecting on her masters, I thought it was pretty cool because I think it was when Hidalgo was asking her if her parents used to fight, and she's talking about her adopted parents, and she's like, she kind of smiles and she's like, yeah, they used to bicker a lot and things like that, and I just kind of thought that was a nice little nod to Anakin and Obi-Wan.
That's awesome.
I thought that too. I thought that's great that you brought that up, Jory, because I had a laugh at that when I read it too, because I was like, and they were like, she smiled like she was remembering something so fondly, and you're like, of course it has to include Anakin, and the only other one would be Obi-Wan.
Exactly. And another one of those moments, talking to Bail, right? When Bail mentions his daughter and how she's become so much like her mother, and Ahsoka makes a point to say, I really don't know what he's talking about, but okay. Am I wrong when he's mentioning? Am I wrong?
The Bail was making a nod to Padme.
Yeah. I thought that was cool too. So these good Star Wars writers know how to make those subtle little nods where it makes you kind of feel good inside. You're like, it's all connected, and I love it. Holly, you had some thoughts, that maybe they're on that paper other than lightsaber. Did we get to all of them?
I think we got to all of them. Literally, my notes were as follows. Lightsaber in big capital letters. Ahsoka with a heart and a question mark.
Is that like, does she have a heart?
Well, it was.
Is she a cyborg? Maybe.
No, that's all I had, really.
That's literally
Those are just my notes. I didn't take very good notes this time.
It just says Ahsoka.
I have something. Yeah, I have a little something to add to that. We want to add a little gaming to that. So Twilight was the best dancer kind of profession in Star Wars Galaxies. And you want to say Jedi don't allow attachments. So I think if you're not allowed attachments and you're a dancer, maybe you just go about relationships a different way. If you know what I'm saying.
I don't know. I mean,
Isn't she Togruta and not Twilight?
Yeah. So that's one issue.
I think Twilight's. Yeah, I think Twilight's just. I'm not going to call them like they don't have feelings. I just think that they're more like this. Like they're like just straight edge. They don't care. They get the job done. But I'm using the Star Wars Galaxy reference because that's what they did. That was their best profession, was literally being a dancer. So it was always like they just didn't give a crap in the end. They didn't want to go do anything else. So whoever wrote that game said Twilight's just phrasing themselves out in a way. So go on.
I think maybe a lot of them were enslaved, right? And I think that's where we see them mostly in Star Wars.
They were forced to being almost like sex workers.
But don't forget the greatest of them all, Harrison Dula.
That's right, and her freedom fighter father.
And I'll be on, like Rob said, a very no nonsense attitude, which makes her such a BA. Though, hey, a sensitive side, little relations there with Kanan. Almost said
Canon.
I don't know
Who are you going for?
I don't know, Holly. I've had one ice water, so I'm not really sure why I
one ice water.
One ice water on the rocks, but so we got to all your notes, Holly.
Yeah, that was all my notes, guys. I like this book. This was the first novel that I've read by E.K. Johnston, and I definitely was not disappointed. I was actually kind of nervous to see what everyone else thought, even though you all voted for this.
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous to see what you guys all thought, though, because they got not the greatest reviews online, but you can't trust everything on the internet.
Nope. Can't. So definitely not on Tumblr. We know that. Paige has confirmed that. They may be predicting the future. We don't know. But
I voted Millennium Falcon.
But Holly, a popular character, and I think a lot of votes came, it's in the height of the Clone War era. We're all still on that high. And I think we all realize, her Rebels involvement, and we want her future there. But did this book disappoint you at all then,
No.
feeling in this time period, even there were some like continuity issues with Clone Wars?
No, I rewatched season 7, episode 10 tonight, where Ahsoka and Darth Maul have their confrontation, because I wanted to remember how that went after reading this novel. And honestly, even though there were discrepancies between the two, I love both of them. I think both of them were written very well. They get their points across, and they just add a little extra dimension to our characters. So I didn't have any disappointments with this book. I know some people categorized it as YA and some didn't.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think this is going to be the last E.K. Johnston book that we would ever read on this podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to read more from her, because I definitely want to get into like Queen Shadow and those books.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, because she definitely, I can see how she's so successful at writing Star Wars. I think we all agree that she just gets it. Like we all said, Luke said that she just understands how to write these characters, how to write the story. She's a huge fan, and that really comes through in the way that she writes. Plus, they're easy reads.
Absolutely.
You know, just they flow so well. I like her writing style. I think that it was done really well. So
absolutely, a nice quick read, a little YA, but that never hurt anyone. Our beloved character, pick it up, check it out. Ahsoka, the novel by E.K. Johnston, and maybe we'll just go on an E.K. Johnston kick and read all of her novels.
I mean, we might do that. I might put a poll in the group maybe next week.
And it may just be E.K. Johnston novels.
It might literally just have one option, and that's all you get.
That's right. That's right.
I have picked a book.
We shall see. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that discussion. We are every month picking up a Star Wars novel, keeping it canon for now until we run out of books to read, which we know that'll never happen in Star Wars. So we're picking up a book every month. We'll put it in the poll, or put it in the Facebook group. We'll have a poll in there. Yeah, that's what she said. We'll put a poll in the Facebook group. Let me rephrase that. And let you guys decide what we're reading. Everyone's got a voice here. We are a democracy, not a dictatorship. Even if Anakin Skywalker wanted it that way, never forget. Holly, it's been a pleasure as always. Where can people find us, Holly?
Oh, good Lord.
I mean everywhere.
We're all over the place.
You can find me here.
Even get away from us.
Yeah, seriously.
We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a Facebook group. We have an email address. We're on any planet.
We have an email address. Yes, we're not going to give it to you. Just have fun searching for it.
You'll see it scrolling at the bottom of the YouTube.
Now I'm scared that Holly doesn't know what the email address is.
It's flyingcasualcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, Holly. I'm glad that you know what that is. You can hit us up there. Join the Facebook group. Hit us up on all social media. Every once in a while, Holly and I just have a few drinks and go game. And that hasn't happened in a couple weeks, but sometimes we like to do a little streaming action with our friends here. A lot of them joined us there, and it was a good time. So you may catch us there on the YouTubes. And if you haven't checked out the YouTube, go check it out. See all these lovely faces here. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check us out on all podcast feed. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can give us a rating. You can check us out on Spotify. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are there. Boy, I hope that's an accurate statement. I think we are. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, like it, subscribe, whatever you got to do to let us know that you enjoyed it. We appreciate you listening. Hope you enjoyed this novel, and we'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.